Beetroot, nature's powerhouse. Packed with vitamins, antioxidants and nitrates, it's known to support heart health, boost stamina and improve blood circulation. Our beetroot is naturally grown and harvested at peak ripeness. The roots are cleaned, dried and finely ground to preserve their rich nutrition content, giving you all the benefits in one pure form. Add 1 teaspoon of beetroot powder to your juice, smoothie or water, or take it in capsule form as recommended by your healthcare provider. Beetroot helps enhance endurance, lower blood pressure, and keep you feeling energized and balanced all day. Fuel your body with the natural power of beetroot. Stay strong, stay healthy. Go get this product at blackhotfirenetwork.com at the Sports and Nutrition Store.
Well, good afternoon, family. Hope you guys are doing amazing. Happy new week, and I hope you had a beautiful weekend. Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Pan-African Bliss Show. My name is Joby. To the first time and returning listeners on Rumble YouTube, and of course YouTube, BitChute, YouTube, Rumble, and to those who shall be catching this on a replay as well. Karibuni sana. And of course, today we shall be having a very interesting conversation without wasting much more of the time. We shall be talking about, of course, news and updates of what has been taking place during the weekend, but mostly focusing on a very interesting topic, talking about Pan-Africanism and Pan-Arabism. Yeah, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And of course, how this has caused the division of talking about the African Union, how it was formed, and how Pan-Africanism and Pan-Arabism, literally how it has led to this particular division and why the African Union doesn't work. But karibuni sana, along that we shall be talking about what is happening in Burkina Faso, what has taken event in Burkina Faso during this weekend. We want to talk about, as we talk about the African Union, literally, which has brought this topic where the African Union wants to replace the old Mekata, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, map with one that shows the Africa true size. We know they've lied, of course, about the true African size, and I love that the fact with the details I'll be sharing, it also shows. There's a video explaining literally how big Africa is without these small fake borders that we have. And along that, we're going to talk about Agenda 2030 and how this hidden agenda is a power shift designed to control human civilization. And with that, I want to back up with, of course, how Africa, the continent, the people have been lied through the media, which they control, how this agenda is a good agenda. We've seen countries like Kenya, which are actually leading in this kind of forums and agendas and launching these projects way ahead before this particular year. So along that, we shall be having other more interesting conversations. So ensure you tune in and ensure, as I remind you before we get started, to download our app on the Google Play Store. Blackout Fire Network is the name. I'm at home. Hi, everyone. I'm at home and I hope you had a beautiful weekend. So ensure you download our app on the Google Play Store. And through our app, you can get yourself some amazing organic supplements, some hoodies, merchandise, anything that you prefer of your choice. You can get all this under Blackout Fire Network application. If you are an Android user, just rush to the Google Play Store and download it. If you are an Apple or iPhone user, we have an active website link, www.blackoutfirenetwork.com. But with that being said, let me share some brain and focus formula as we get to pour our minds here, as we get straight to the conversation, coming back with what has been happening in Burkina Faso.
Unlock your full potential with Brain and Focus, a powerful supplement designed to boost mental clarity, enhance memory, and sharpen concentration. Made from a blend of scientifically proven ingredients like ginkgo biloba, omega-3 and essential vitamins, Brain and Focus is crafted to fuel your mind. Our process ensures maximum potency and effectiveness, delivering the perfect balance of brain-boosting nutrients. Take just 1 capsule daily, as prescribed by your healthcare provider, and feel the difference. Whether it's powering through your workday or staying sharp in life's challenges, Brain and Focus keeps you at the top of your game. Stay sharp, Stay focused and stay ahead with Brain and Focus. Brain and Focus, fuel your mind, achieve more. Go get this product at blackhotfirenetwork.com at the Sports and Nutrition Store.
Exactly, at a very affordable price and much more. But straight away to the conversation, starting with what has taken place during the weekend. I want to start with, of course, some positive news coming from Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore is still doing his big, amazing job, and I want to talk about him, how he has literally dedicated his salary to the people of Burkina Faso this particular weekend. And this is to the needy people, the people who are on the street, because understand it's not like the country, of course, is fully developed. They're trying as much as they can slowly to develop the country. It's going to take time before every Burkinabe is comfortable and living okay. Is he doing something about it? Yes, he is. But of course, there are people who are still yet to get this opportunity or yet to get there. But this weekend, we had President Ibrahim Traore, who did donate his salary to orphans and street children. And the Burkina Faso president, Captain Ibrahim, has reportedly donated his entire annual salary to support orphans and street children, personally delivering the aid. And this is amazing. Understand that in Burkina Faso, they've been trying, especially for the past few weeks. You saw that you've seen the French military, the French or the Western, all of them are trying as much as they can to invade or form other fake coups so that the current president of the Alliance Sahel state can be taken over or can be withdrawn or assassinated because they're delivering what the rest of us should not be seeing. And I love the fact that along the videos I'll be sharing, it is very well explained how these people just enjoy and have joy in seeing us suffering. It is super crazy. You can't literally explain this kind of mindset, but this is amazing. This is not AI. Shout out to Mudavadi, one of the Kenyan officials, who say that these are AI videos. This ain't AI. This is real videos. These are real pictures, as you can see, showcasing literally what is happening in Burkina Faso. He himself going to the streets, hugging people, showing love and all that. And most people don't like to see this, of course, especially the current African puppets don't want to see this. Someone says Tinubu is going to say this is AI. See, this is some one of the comments. Someone also says, someone says, wow, they are lucky to have him as a president. Someone also says Tinubu, he's crazy. Tinubu, I bet Tinubu did say this is AI. Others are thinking this is AI. So basically, of course, also the videos are going viral of these puppets trying to clarify or put some certain sort of false allegations that Ibrahim Traore is not delivering and everything that is put out there is all AI. It's not. The people actually are very happy that he's delivering. But on this other end, still in Burkina Faso, remember I did report some news, I think 2 weeks ago, where we saw a Burkinabe who was killed in Cote d'Ivoire. This is in Ivory Coast. And of course, at that time, I'll say the reason for his death were not literally clear, but now we have full reports where, of course, there was demonstration in Burkina Faso and some parts of Ivory Coast where people are demanding justice from the Ivory Coast government, demanding, of course, justice and this unclear death circumstance. But we have now Burkina Faso repatriates, which are repatriates alias Burkina Faso repatriates Alinos Faso's body has been, of course, taken to the country. That is where we're seeing, as you can see in the image, and they're talking about the remains of Alain Christophe Traore, widely known as Alinos Faso, have been repatriated to Burkina Faso from Cote d'Ivoire and igniting national mourning and renewed calls for accountability. Traore, a prominent social media influencer and supporter of Burkina Faso ruling president, was found dead in Dakar Gendarmerie school cell in Abidjan, Abidjan, yeah, that is in late July. The Ivorian Authority concluded that he took his own life by hanging himself with bedsheets. And understand this is the same speculations that have been running around from most of the police stations or cells. They're trying to say that this just as unknown deaths or people dying in cells, it's people hanging themselves, while autopsy does tell different, especially when it's done. But they're also saying a finding swiftly rejected by his supporters and Burkinabe government, who insist his death was a villainous murder, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and they condemn the lack of prior notification to his family, lawyer, or Burkina Faso's embassy, and have demanded a full, transparent investigation. In Ouagadougou, hundreds have marched in protest, dressed in white, from the Thomas Sankara Memorial to the Ivorian Embassy, and demonstrators carried placards calling for the truth and justice to be served, insisting that Traore's case symbolizes a broader national grievance. Burkina Faso's government has pledged that death will not go unpunished and insists a joint investigation. The human rights groups, meanwhile, has won the case could aggravate diplomatic tensions between Ouagadougou and Abidjan and underscores the border political sensitivity surrounding dissent and detention in West Africa, which I don't think Burkina Faso cares. This is if you can't respect people coming into your country, leave alone the border, whatever political differences, then there's no way you're going to agree. The fact that my people are dying already in your country, what other border measures or talk sensitivity do we need to have? You're already going against the law and against the order. So this is currently what is happening in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore is out there giving back to the people, giving out all his salary. We've never seen any of these puppet leaders do that. You'd never see Museveni, you'd never see Tinubu, you'd never see Cameroon president. You'd never seen none of these puppets who have been there in power for so long doing this. As a matter of fact, what they're doing is they're looking for more ways how they can stay in power by seeking more political terms or presidential terms. It is super crazy, but I love the fact that also the Burkinabe people are so woke and understand what is wrong and what is right, and how actually democracy should be served and how it should be working in a country. But as we move on along from that, we also have recent updates coming from this is in I'll talk about the Agenda 2030, of course, how it has been designed, rather it was designed, because this is something that is currently taking place with all these political agendas that have been pushing with the weather control or climate change, carbon emission, blah, blah, blah. So many things regarding health. Also, we're seeing we saw what last week Bill Gates did, coming up with a new family planning that lasts for 8 years, which has been a topic. People are talking about it, understanding what this is all about. We have food control, which also, of course, we've seen it happening. They're trying to push more GMOs for you to abandon the organic food, organic seeds, and all that. It is crazy. Coming up with lab-made fruits, meat, and everything. But I want to talk about this, and as I explain this, I have a video first coming from Kenya, which explains how this is what they had. This is a video from 8 years ago, okay? I remember the first time personally I saw an advert of Vision 2030, and when this vision is sold to you, especially understanding that they use media to control your mindset, I bought it and I was like, yeah, for real. Kenya in the next maybe coming years, or Africa, we're not going to be having poverty anymore. We're not going to be, it's going to be completely different. But sadly, there's nowhere where we've moved forward from all these agendas being pushed. We're way behind from when we started talking about these agendas. We're still stuck way behind. Yes, a few developments have been done here and there, but the way they have been done have left us with lots of scars. When I talk about scars, it's debts, because we're talking about the IMF, the World Bank, and all these fake organizations who are so much involved in the control of our country and resources, to be specific. So let me share what the advert of Kenya was about. I didn't want to go further looking at other African countries, what they were advertising, but bet it is the same, of course, because we've seen them also applying the same paint that other countries are also applying. Let me just use that a narrative or theory. So let me share this very quickly as I get to explain and read what the agenda is about. Of course, I know most of us know, but African countries right now, so many, especially Kenya is so gone. At this point, Ruto has completely sold us out. But let me continue.
9 years ago, Kenya began the implementation of the Vision 2030 project to transform and grow the economy, with one aim being into a middle-income state, a status Kenya has so far been able to achieve. Despite the government giving itself a pat on the back for economic success, there are areas that lag behind, such as the economic pillar, throwing the economic blueprint off course. According to the chairman of the Vision 2030 Secretariat, Dr. James Mwangi, it is important to look at the long-term, stressing that steps such as massive infrastructure spending will have economic benefits down the line.
The investments we are doing on infrastructure, railways, roads, and ports and harbors will start giving the private sector the benefits of lower cost of doing business.
See, the focus number one was not even about the people, the country's economy. The focus was all about privatization of our own assets. This is 8 years ago we're talking about. I'm going to start this video again. The focus is not about us growing economically. Yes, we're going to build roads. We're going to have this backward railways and everything that they're talking about, which was created in the 60s and the 80s, whatever, when people were stealing our resources from the continent. That is what they're talking about in terms of development. But at the end of the day, it's not even about how this is going to help us as a country. It's talking about privatization. This is crazy, man.
9 years ago, Kenya began the implementation of the Vision 2030 project.
9 years ago. Mind you, this is a video of 8 years ago.
To transform and grow the economy, with one aim being into a middle-income state, a status Kenya has so far been able to achieve. Despite the government giving itself a pat on the back for economic success, there are areas that lag behind, such as the economic pillar, throwing the economic blueprint off course. According to the chairman of the Vision 2030 Secretariat, Dr. James Mwangi, it is important to look at the long-term, stressing that steps such as massive infrastructure spending will have economic benefits down the line.
The investments we are doing on infrastructure, railways, roads, and ports and harbors will start giving the private sector the benefits of lower cost of doing business.
Do you know how much of a joke this is? This is crazy.
And logistics capability of the country.
Dr. Mwangi further adds that the projects, which are spread throughout the country, allow Kenya to move as an ecosystem through a development approach.
Hopefully in 5 years, half of the food production in the country would be under irrigation. Food self-sufficiency is an issue of dignity. And as a country, we have to feed ourselves.
The implementation of the Constitution, however, poses a challenge to the achievement of the project as the country becomes more dynamic.
We created a very prescriptive constitution. It says you must do, you must do, you must do. The question is, as the environment changes and it's forcing you to do things, and it's not adapting to the changing environment, what will happen to the country?
To create awareness on how far the delivery of Vision 2030 project has gone, the Secretariat has embarked on a nationwide campaign dubbed Tunatimiza,
which is all nonsense. I just want to share that and see if I can find another more video, because there's how they really sold this narrative, and especially to us, the people, because at that time I was in school, the students, we really bought it. We really bought it. We were like, wowed. We were wowed. We're going to have good schools. We're going to have this and this. It was very promising, and only to come figure out that all this is an agenda. All this is an agenda that has nothing to completely do with us. Nothing to do with us. Let me see if I can find it. Let me just give me a minute. No, here. Not here either. But recently we had just before now Uhuru Kenyatta left the office, we had Kenya being the first country, I think, in Africa, not sure, but it was one among the first, let me say that, to launch among the projects. Let me just share the video to explain further.
Itself as the preferred financial hub after it formally launched its financial center today. The Nairobi International Financial Center will enable the country to attract global firms and increase its capital flows, as Dennis Otieno reports.
Described as a key pillar of the Vision 2030 development blueprint, the Nairobi International Financial Center was formally unveiled. The center is expected to attract foreign businesses to Nairobi and spell out
foreign businesses, which is not bad. We're not saying it's bad. Don't get me wrong, but who are the foreigners we're talking about? Because this is the same issue we're just currently addressing with Samia Suluhu saying that all the foreigners need to kick out. Who are the foreigners? That is something that African countries need to start addressing. When you talk about you need to start attracting these foreigners to come and invest. Who are the foreigners? Is it the Chinese, the Indians, and all that? And how is this benefiting the majority of Kenyans? Because the majority of Kenyans, what you're supposed to do, you're not even delivering. Your focus is not even building job opportunities, having manufacturing industry in the country. It's bringing and inviting people to make money off us, get rich off. It's crazy.
Factors that will enable them thrive in the country and beyond. To achieve this, the center will prioritize 4 key areas, namely green finance, financial technology, investment funds, and creating
all the projects we've been discussing that are all scams.
Conditions for more multinationals to make Nairobi their regional headquarters.
We have seen more international private equity firms.
And remember, there's a video I shared last week. I'm going to share it again. Everything they start in Kenya, always there's a reason why they start everything in Kenya. Remember the video I shared which said that everything they've been doing, especially recently, there's a reason why they start in Kenya.
Stepping up their focus and investing in Kenyan businesses, a clear indication of investor confidence. Our goal now is to raise the profile of Nairobi on the global investment radar and create the conditions to scale this growth to new heights.
As a target, the center hopes to attract investments totaling more than $2 billion, or roughly 236 billion shillings, by the year 2030.
The strength and attractiveness of Kenya's financial sector is evident in the growth and expansion of our banks in the larger East African region, as well as the ICT-driven innovation and the agility of the financial services sector through mobile money, with increasing opportunities emerging across the continent.
With Nairobi strategically placed as a leading financial hub in the region, the center will create a key role in enabling Kenya create opportunities to mobilize domestic and international savings and investments. Head of Public Service Joseph Kenywa acknowledged this as he represented President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was slated as the chief guest.
The Nairobi International Financial Center has been designed as an efficient and predictable business environment, which we expect to give more confidence to the large pools of global capital that have been watching our progress but have not yet taken the decision to invest.
Companies certified by the center stand to benefit from a raft of incentives. For instance, firms operating a carbon market exchange or emission trading system under the NIFC will benefit from 15% corporate tax.
And which we saw, of course, what this are and how this is affecting so many people, like the lands, people are getting killed and all that for all this carbon emission, and which doesn't even benefit none of these people. This is so crazy. But going back now to the article that I wanted to share, to make us understand why we're talking about this, because sadly, yes, African countries, they've been trapped by these agendas. It's because of the fake independency, I'd say. Again, we go back to that drawing board. The fake independency has brought us all this way far to be accepting all this to be going on. If we stood by our feet and said no, of course, there are consequences, but I believe we should have left a mark of the spirit of fighting, if I'm really making sense, but it has made us so reluctant to the point we don't even know when war is actually on us, because this is war. This is war in different ways. This is a war economically, this is a war health-wise, this is a war health-wise, in education-wise, political-wise, every way. Like, it's a war. That's basically personally what I'd say. But the hidden power, of course, the power shift which is designed to control the humanization. It talks about the setup, which is by 2030, life won't look the same, right? That is what they sold. And not because of progress, but because of control. Not because of progress, but mind you, they have sold us progress. That's what they have sold. They have told us by 2030, life won't look the same because of progress. But they're saying this is not because of progress, it's because of control. You will be sold, you will be told it's for your safety, of course. You will be told it's for the planet, this climate agendas and everything. But behind the curtain, a global reset is unfolding. And of course, as we go to the next slide, they're talking about the promise of utopia. Leaders speak up of sustainability, equality, and progress. And that's all you hear every time they meet up on these summits. That's the discussion. These are the terms they use: sustainability, equality, progress, partnership, cooperation, and everything. The Agenda 2030 is branded as a global mission to end poverty. That is, of course, what they tell you. Fight climate change, which is what they tell you, and create fairer societies. And sounds perfect, right? But behind every promise lies a trade-off. The real trade is to achieve this utopia. You asked to surrender. You're asked to surrender. That is you. And we have the private property, which you heard him mention. Go back to the video he just shared. He explains very well. This an economic agenda not to make you Negroes comfortable, but to make the white people comfortable. Privatization of your own assets. Why? Why are you giving up your own property in your own country? You should be fighting for it. It should be free. It should be public. But it's already privatized. We go back now to the IMF and the World Bank structure. Remember, like the World Bank, the IMF structure, once you're in this scam, if you can't pay the money, what is gonna end up happening to most of the properties in your country? They're gonna be privately owned. And then they're talking about control over energy and resource, which is what they've been doing. They're still doing it. They'll keep on doing it if we don't do anything about it, like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Freedom of decision making, which they've completely denied us. They talk about democracy, but we don't have it. And mind you, the agenda is to achieve the utopia, which is sold to you, where the end of poverty, good schools, sustainability, equality is possible, but it's not there. In exchange, you'll be told you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's what they're telling you. The digital cage is where by 2030, almost everything will be digitalized. I mean, we've seen this. We have digital IDs, which we've seen where we're moving. We've seen this currently, of course, being pushed. Don't act blind. The central bank digital currencies, we've seen that being pushed. Don't act blind or deaf either. We have the AI-driven surveillance system. We've seen this taking over as well. Don't act stupid or dumb. We've seen this. Every purchase, movement, and opinion will be tracked, scored, and stored. We've seen that. Food and energy monopoly, which is part of control, right? Control shifts from farmers and citizens to corporations and states. We've seen this happening. Shout out to Bill Gates. with all these farms he's been buying and everything. African countries being told what they can plant and what they can't plant, how they should and shouldn't do. It's crazy. Lab-grown food recipe farms, which we've seen that being pushed. The green energy grids are centralized. We've been seeing that. Carbon footprint scores decided how much you can travel, eat, or buy. We're headed there. That is where we're literally headed. Completely heading there. And last but not least, I guess they're also talking about, not last but not least, but they're saying that the disappearance of choice, where the choices will shrink, not expand. And if you want to drive a car, not if your carbon quota is done. If you want to buy property, private ownership will be phased out, And we have, if you want to dissent, algorithms will be flag, censor, and silence you. The wealth transfer, this isn't about equality. It's about the greatest wealth transfer in history, from everyday citizens to multinational corporations, global banks, and elite institutions. And we know who control all this. This is crazy, you guys. And you want to say this cut to the small hats, all this, we're going to go down without a fight. This is crazy. Your loss will be marketed as their progress. That is what they're saying. And the illusion of freedom is that they won't force chains on you. This is not slavery. Okay? This is why you're surrendering, remember, from the beginning. Instead, they'll give you apps, screens, and scores. The more you comply, the more rewards you get. It's not slavery by iron. It's slavery by design. Exactly. The hidden hand, who benefits from the Agenda 2030? That is, of course, the question everyone would be asking. Why are they doing this? What is the benefit? The billionaires who own the technology, banks that control digital money, institutions that regulate global resources. I mean, they control everything, so we know who they are. It's not about saving the planet. It's about securing control. And the final truth about it is the agenda isn't a prediction. It's a blueprint. It's a system where freedom is replaced by permission and control is disguised as progress. The real question is, will you wake up before it's too late? Don't tick and keep this truth to yourself. Spread it to the people. That is what they're telling you. And it's crazy because sadly, again, like we're saying, African countries are literally completely into this. And this is why we go back to our main topic, right? About Pan-Africanism. What is Pan-Africanism? What is Pan-Africanism? If I'm trying to understand Pan-Africanism, what is Pan-Africanism? Someone can make me understand maybe on the comment. But according to Google, Pan-Africanism is a global ideology. And it shouldn't be, I don't know why they say a global, because I believe it should be the African continent ideology, if I'm trying to get it correctly. But before we get into that, let me share my screen here. Yeah, they're talking about Pan-Africanism is a global ideology advocating for unity and solidarity for people of African descent. Okay, makes sense. I'd say Africa. I'd say because it's Pan-Africanism. Think the fact that we put global ideology, this is where white people stole, or the fact that's how it was, I don't know. But anyway, Pan-Africanism, global ideology advocating for the unity and solidarity of people of African descent, both on the continent and in the diaspora. And it emphasizes shared culture, historical and political interest, promoting self-determination and challenging colonialism and its lasting effects. The movement seeks to foster cooperation and development among African nations and the people, aiming for a stronger and unified Africa. But what we have today in the African Union, is that Pan-Africanism? That's not Pan-Africanism, because if African Union was a Pan-Africanist organization, so much should be seen moving forward, benefiting Africans from the diaspora and in the continent, if I'm really making sense. But let me share this very quickly. We have the African Union, which just during this weekend said that they want to expand the size of the map of Africa to its true size. Mind you, this this organization has not dared to change this fact since the fake independence of African countries, and introducing this fact to the system of school or to schools. This narrative has been long existing, that how the map of Africa looks today is its true size. So I bet it would be also so impossible, probably, hypothetically speaking, impossible to convince some other Africans who lack history that that was the Africa true size. Because let me share this. The African Union, they're saying that the metaphor map distorts Africa's size, making it look smaller, and that's than it really is. The AU wants schools and institutions to teach with accurate maps. I mean, why now? Why didn't you start later? It's a question. I mean, it's good, but why didn't you start later? Promoters, it's going to promote Africa's true scale in relations to other continents, and it's going to help also challenge Eurocentric perspective that overemphasize countries near the poles, and encourages government and global organizations to adopt accurate maps. So listen to this.
Bigger than the world makes it look. The maps we usually see are based on something called the Mercator projection, a method that tries to flatten the round Earth into a 2D surface, and in doing so, it totally distorts the actual size of continents. For example, Greenland and Africa look similar in size on most maps, but in reality, Africa is 14 times larger than Greenland. In fact, Greenland is even smaller than just one African country, DR Congo. Now let's talk about Russia. On maps, it looks massive, almost larger than Africa. But here's the truth. You could fit Russia inside Africa twice. And that's not all. The US, China, India, Japan, and all of Europe, they can all fit inside Africa at the same time. Did you know Africa is actually way bigger than the...
Yeah, so Africa's true size is 30.37 million square kilometer, or 11.37 million square miles, however you'd like to calculate it. And this means what this means is Africa's size can encompass several major nations in the world. That is basically what is being explained. And it's amazing to learn this, but I just go back to what they're saying and trying to introduce this now to the
world makes it
the system of education. And this is what I have a problem with, because if we really had true independency, we should have written what was right, including now renaming our maps. We should get rid of these borders. You should have taught you should get rid of the borders. You should have taught the true size of the continent. You should actually even teach how the map really looks like, because it's upside down according to the true facts. You should start teaching how the map really looks like, leave alone even the size. How did the map really look like before all these white narratives that have been really going on? But as I get to literally answer the question that I'm also asking myself, and to those who shall be catching this, listen to this young man. I really did enjoy to listen to this video. I loved how he explained everything. And I'm just gonna get straight to it.
Wants a secular Africa, in my opinion, is divided in
So
three.
he's explaining literally how Africa is divided into three, and he talks about the term Pan-Africanism, which countries actually do apply Pan-Africanism and signed into Pan-Africanism. Because leave alone, I'm not talking about the African Union, I'm talking about Pan-Africanism, okay? And of course, I'm gonna look into it as we continue. And we also have Pan-Arabism, which is gonna explain also which these countries consist of this. And actually, you can see the effect of it today. It's crazy because it took me maybe time. I had to bump into someone like him explaining this, but it took me time to understand why the African Union actually, which this is a big problem, why it doesn't work. Because we have other countries, number one, which are invaded by people who are not Africans, and they got rid of the true ethnicity or ethnic people that were there, the true indigenous people on these lands. I'm talking about Morocco, Tunisia. We talk about Sudan. We talk about Somali, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and all that. We see the difference politically, how it has taken effect today. And now we have countries which are part, in part of Pan-Africanism, don't practice Pan-Africanism, but they're not invaded, like the Pan-Arabism. Let me just let him explain, because this is really, really interesting to watch, and I hope you learn something about it. And I'm going to explain what I've understood from this and makes sense why the African Union cannot work, why African countries also can't work. Is a whole lot of mess than we think. It's big.
When it comes to the ideologies based on which the countries were formed, we have the Pan-African Africa divide, we have the Pan-Arabism Africa divide, and the rest of the countries whose identities are caught in between the two. Ladies and gentlemen, so we have 21 African countries whose flags and commitment to the Pan-African movement was based on the role Emperor Haile Selassie, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, and Julius Nyerere played up until the times of independence. These countries were Ethiopia, Ghana, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, Cameroon, Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Republic of Congo, Sao Tome and Principe, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Eswatini, South Sudan, Kenya, Zambia, Guinea-Bissau, Central African Republic, and the Comoros. These were the Pan-African nations.
We also have Senegal, we have Tanzania, which he didn't mention. We have Ethiopia, Ghana, Tanzania, Zambia, Kenya, Nigeria, Morocco, Rwanda, Senegal, Uganda, and the rest that he did mention. So these are actually countries that promote Pan-Africanism. Pan-African countries are those that actively participate in and promote the ideals of Pan-Africanism, and a movement that seeks to unify and celebrate the diverse cultures and people of Africa. And these countries show solidarity with other African nations and embrace shared African identity. Yes, shared African identity, but we don't practice. Actually, when you talk about this, is another thing. We have put up terms and names that we don't actually, in this fake democracy, they have put up and engaged in terms that they don't even practice. Pan-Africanism, the fact how it was set up, and we have Tanzania being included, we should not have seen the move that Samia Suluhu pulled the other day, telling foreigners, who are the foreigners? Again, clarifications that we need. But I go back. Talking about that it seeks unity. These countries lack unity. These are countries actually being divided by the Western nations, being paid to invade each other, like Kenya, Sudan. I mean, we're coming to that. We're coming to Kenya, Sudan now, difference of the Pan-Africanism and Pan-Arabism, Celebrate the diverse cultures and the people of Africa. I'm about to get to that as well. The diverse cultures and people. If Pan-Africanism promotes us celebrating diverse cultures and people, and us identifying the African shared identity, Why is it that we've seen this Black African BS of fight? I have a stupid video I'm about to share as I get closer to winding up, or after this one. If we really practice Pan-African, what is all this that we're seeing? But let him talk.
And then we had the 10 Pan-Arabism African divide, whose worldview were aligned with the Arab League and the Arab culture and the works of Gamal Abdel Nasser and Mikel Aflag and Ahmed Ben Bella. Ladies and gentlemen, these countries were Algeria, Comoros, Egypt, Djibouti, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, Somalia, Sudan, and Tunisia.
All the countries mentioned are countries today who we know the people living there are not the original people. Let's be factual. Those Pan-Arab, if you from there to there, if you've understood what he's explaining, shout out to this man. This is such a good clip. This is such a good information. I loved this. The countries mentioned: Tunisia, Morocco, Ethiopia, Sudan, and the rest. Most of the people today there are not even the real people.
And some of the countries within these two groups align with both ideologies. Now, one of the fundamental reasons why it's difficult to have a totally united Africa on anything we set our mind to is that these two movements are just incompatible, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Because politically, number one, politically, that is just one. They're not compatible. Politically, Tunisia doesn't like these other African nations. Tunisian president has already declared and told the people war on any Negro who appears here. Morocco, racism is there. In Ethiopia, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. And the other countries really mentioned. So politically, we're not compatible.
Virtues Pan-Africanism stand for and the virtues Pan-Arabism stand for are on two polar sides. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the three core differences between Pan-Africanism and Pan-Arabism, which has been the reason we as AU may not succeed in our set goals. They are, number one, identity crisis. Number two, scope of symbol. And number three, end game or end goal crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, Pan-Africanism is built on a shared African heritage and the unity of all people of the African descent, whether on the African continent or in the diaspora. But Pan-Arabism is built on a shared Arab identity and joined by the Arabic language and the religion of the Arab League and their cultural heritage. These two, ladies and gentlemen, don't meet at any point. And this has plagued the AU since its inception. Basically, one is about our race and our common struggles, and the other is about pretty much of culture and religion. So they may sit at the table as heads of state in Africa and discuss all manner of issues, but the commitment to follow through won't be united because of the virtues of each group. Ladies and gentlemen, each of these groups sees things from a different perspective, using different lenses, because the expected outcomes aren't the same.
Exactly. And going back to the race still, which heavily applies. Who are the people now currently in control of these countries he just mentioned? Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Somalia, Sudan, Tunisia. Those countries mentioned. None of I don't know any puppet in there. We see people you can't even mention who are there ruling these countries.
In simple words, being an African is mostly a genetic thing, and being an Arab being mostly a cultural and religious thing at this point. These are the obvious stereotypes, and these two don't really match. Now, the second reason that prevents Africa from uniting based on factors
it's stereotypes, it's facts
from within has to do with the scope of symbols of the two groups. The red, gold, green for the Pan-African countries aims to end colonialism, fight racism, and unite Africa politically and economically. This is also about the bloodshed of our people, the religious freedoms across the length and breadth of the continent, and the fertility of Africa's vegetation, ladies and gentlemen. And this is for all Black African people within the geographical location of Africa, and also for all peoples with Black heritage in the diaspora. But the red, white, black, and green of Pan-Arabism group aims to make a sovereign country an Arab nation. First of all, make it an Arab nation, then unite the Arab nations into a single or closely allied political bloc and resist foreign domination, ladies and gentlemen. These are two conflicting ideologies. One is based on unity in the diversity of a continental people, and the other is the making and grouping of different states into one state with one culture and one political and religious belief. The only time the two ideologies may seem to meet is when they share a common enemy. But ladies and gentlemen, if you had studied your history properly,
they never actually even, I do agree, yeah, because they all actually share a common enemy. That is just the fact, you know, with the Pan-Africanism group and the Pan-Arabic group, they, they all share a common enemy, or they're all controlled by the same master. Let me say that.
You know that at one point in time, the religious and political movement of the Arab culture in itself was an enemy to the African society. So based on these facts, I therefore believe that at no point do they completely share in their ideologies. Hence, that explains why the core symbols of our unity in terms of our national flag colors are different, and why there is so much disagreement amongst AU member countries. The third and most important reason, ladies and gentlemen, behind why there is a huge roadblock to Africa's unity is about the end game of each group. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to this. The expectation of Pan-Africanism and Pan-Arabism aren't the same, and therefore cannot work together. Pan-Africanism is based on resisting neo-colonialism and strengthening the community of African countries for economic and political prosperity. That is one side. It is also about protecting the diversity in our religious and cultural beliefs in line with our individual sovereignties, ladies and gentlemen. This is what the push for an independent and united Africa was all about. But Pan-Arabism is the direct opposite of that. It isn't based on encouraging diversity in religious and cultural beliefs, but rather an amalgamation of political, religious, and cultural beliefs. The end game of Pan-Africanism is to have an African Union that hopefully will have a constitution that bonds our economies, allows for freedom of movement with a single currency and with a common army, ladies and gentlemen. The end game of Pan-Arabism movement is to have an Arab League that is ultimately run on the constitution of Sharia law according to the Quran. This is the fundamental expectation of these two groups, in my opinion, and I stand corrected. Whatever you believe is true, ladies and gentlemen, you are free to defend it in the comment section and be civil.
Yeah, so I hope you've learned something about that. Personally, I did learn something because I've never even thought about Pan-Arabism. That is something I've never thought, that these countries did have anything called like that, you know, Pan-Arabism. Which are those countries that identify with or are part of the Pan-Arabist movement, and which promote the idea of unified Arab world. Currently, the Arab League, an organization promoting Arab unity, and includes 22 member states. These countries are primarily located in the Middle East and North Africa. And we have Algeria, Bahrain, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, currently suspended from the Arab League, Tunisia, We know Syria, why it has been suspended. United Arab Emirates and Yemen. So those are currently the countries or the 22 member states of the Arabic pan-Arabist movement. Never thought about this, but I hope you've learned something on today's conversation as we literally get closer to winding up. On the last video of the day, I want to share this video. So understanding literally what Pan-Africanism is. Why is it that we see now this bullshit of behavior? It's hard, and this is why you need to, education is so important. Education is so important. Sit down, do research of some terms. If you don't understand, like myself, I look at a term. If I don't understand, I won't just hop into something without knowing what I'm talking about. But listen to this.
What is African culture? You wash your kid's head in cow pee. I see a lot of Africans, they bend their head under cows and let cows piss on their head. Y'all don't even live past 35. The oldest African in Africa.
That is something else. Just like we say, just because you see one moron don't let it lie to you that everyone is a moron.
Right now is probably 42. How many countries in Africa? 107? Not.
You don't even know. So shut up. Like, this is crazy.
One of them are ran by Africans. The smartest person in Africa lives in Burkina Faso. Y'all don't have a...
Talking about Burkina Faso just because it's been trending lately doesn't make you smart that you know anything about the African continent, okay?
Culture. White people told y'all what y'all culture is.
What is the culture? Bro, let me educate you. Every culture starts from a language, a tribe.
And another stupidity. This is what we've been talking about. You want to take your mindset now to America thinking that they have a culture of tribalism. I think I sent this video to Keith. Shout out to you if you're listening. I shared this video with you, and this explains exactly what you've been trying to understand. This narrates completely if you've been trying to understand why Africans would move there and they have tribal behavior. You have a moron. You have an African American who's not educated about the African continent, and just because he's been seeing Burkina Faso trending, and seeing one man being peed by a cow on the head, thinks everyone is stupid like that in the continent, and just because you've seen one leader leading a country correct, you think you know the whole continent now about the African leaders. And then you have now an African arguing, talking about culture, saying that every culture exists with the tribe you talk. This is stupid.
Every tribe have a language. What is it? Apart from English, what other language do Americans speak?
You see, they expect you guys to have so this, I guess this answers everything. They expect you to have tribe. All right, it's not told, apart from the gangster movements being promoted and all that. We don't know if you have tribe or not. We don't know if you're Kikuyus or not.
The Black Americans. The Mexicans in America speak Spanish. They have something they speak outside English. The Asians the Chinese, everybody speak their language outside English. What do you speak? What is the trace of your culture you're talking about? What is the American culture? I want to know, what is the Black American culture? I keep hearing this culture. Bro, the Black Americans are the culture, maybe baby mama culture. Baby single women having 3 kids. That's probably their culture. Or the numbers of the highest incarcerated Black young men in America. That's their culture. I don't know. Is it the pim culture? The gang banging culture? Is that the culture? Bro, the Black American culture is about wearing, let's say, wearing the Nikes, wearing they want to be on the trend game. These are the culture. But I don't know why the Black Americans feel like they should be the center of Black people around the world, or they should be the face of Black people around the world. Why? Bro, you can have your face. See, you don't even have to declare yourself that you are not African, you are not African American. Bro, nobody give a flying damn about what you think about yourself. That's your own opinion and your own mentality, your own narrative of everything, how you are. That nobody cares. But bringing all your fights about Africa, bro, I don't get it. We talk about culture every time. What is the culture? I want to know. Genuinely, I'm asking. The hip hop. You want to say the hip hop? The music is your culture. I don't get it. Eminem is not Black, but he do more hip hop probably than the Black American.
See, lack of education, but that's why we're gonna leave it at, family, literally. Thank you to those who have been able to catch up with me and to those who shall be watching this on a replay. Hope you guys get to enjoy. Have yourselves a beautiful day. Shout out to you, Byron Scott. I see you. And of course, much love and have yourselves an amazing, amazing day. I'll be winding up with the same jam I literally started with, or a different one. Let me play a different jam right now as we wind up. Yeah, but thank you so much for tuning in. For those who shall be catching this on a replay, let me know on the comment section. Maybe if you knew about the the pan-Arabic people and the pan-Africanism, and why these two literally don't work, and literally why the African continent, it's so easy to unite. That is one of the reasons. But peace, and have yourselves a beautiful day.
Yeah. Okay. Mina wapatia some more. Truck inaanza on a late note. Squeezy nimeacha kulay low. Mianza kuzoza kozwai note. Niko kambi na sule na line on. Nimewashike hiyo mi kama maino. Wabin elevating toka enzi za high school. Nezauliza kina saimo. So niko loaded na maboyu wa mtaa. Mbio michakato buda hatupotezi masaa. Now that I'm up in the city, my city wanna go Sara. Drop to the top, niko high na pa. Taking the album in the come to life. Reminiscing zile siku nimelala njaa. Walai no lie. Kisas, no. Ku restart, ni normal. Keep the distance, nikiwa ndonyo na nasi.